Hello, this is Mike Alfoltis, President of Maritime College, and I'll be discussing with you Maritime College's plan for resumption of our on-campus operations and instruction in September. Just want to remind everybody that the plan today is certainly the plan today, and it may change tomorrow, and certainly the plan may change tomorrow as either conditions around us change or as guidance from the state of New York changes. So we'll be presenting to you a plan today. I hope this information is helpful, but just please bear in mind that we may have to change the plan, again, due to changing conditions or as guidance from the state of New York may ask us to change the plan. Again, this was the announcement that was made on Monday, announcing our intention to resume on-campus operations and on-campus instruction. We have carefully considered everything. We thought obviously very carefully about the health and safety of our entire campus community, and that the health and safety of our campus community will remain our top priority. But again, based on guidance we've given from the governor, given by the governor for reopening of schools, what the current trends are regarding the virus in the state of New York, as well as all the preparations we made to date, we believe that we can resume on-campus operations in September. This will include a combination of different modalities, face-to-face instruction, as well as remote learning and on-campus course delivery. And I'll get into that in a few minutes. We will resume on-campus operations on August 24th with the commencement of the faculty and staff coming back on campus. Classes will start on September 8th. This will be an overview presentation, a very high-level, broad overview with critical dates. But we'll be providing more specific guidance on our in-doc program, on moving back into the residence halls, as well as information on modality of course delivery. All that will be forthcoming this week. We'll obviously continue to monitor the conditions regarding the COVID virus, and we may have to make changes we may have to make changes to our plans accordingly. And I just ask that you continue to monitor your email, social media, and our college website for additional information. And again, we will continue to do the best we can to communicate with you the best that we can. I know there will be times where we fall short of our goal to keep you well informed, but we'll continue to keep you as well informed as we possibly can. So I'd like to talk to you about, so first I want to just a brief overview of our plan for restarting on-campus operations, what preparations we've made so far, what changes we've already had to make to the plan based on things like the governor's New York State travel advisory and the requirement for quarantine in New York State, changes to our indoctrination program, changes to how we typically move into the dorms and start residential life in the dorms. Also talk again about the modality of course instruction and how students will find out about the modality of their courses. And then finally, I'd like to end with, again, financial aid information, because I know many of our families and students are facing a very difficult financial situation, and we like to do all we can to help everybody with that regard. So again, our restarting plan, our plan to restart on-campus operations, it was certified by SUNY as in compliance with the governor's guidelines for higher education. Our plan has been filed with the New York State Department of Health. It is posted currently on our COVID-19 Restart webpage. But again, this plan can change, and it continues to change based on changing conditions, based on guidance or directives from the governor's office, the New York State Department of Health, or SUNY or other agencies. We are currently making modifications to our plan based on the governor's New York State travel advisory, and the requirement to quarantine in New York State has required us to make some changes to our plan. And I'll get into that again in a few more minutes. And again, as the plan changes, we'll continue to update the plan. It's on our website. So if you want to see what the current plan is, please go to our website, and there you'll find the current version of the plan. We are currently executing phase 1 of our plan. I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes and how well things are going and some of the lessons learned and best practices. We continue to learn as we go. We continue to incorporate best practices as we go, and certainly, having the students back on campus for phase 1 has allowed us to test the plan and think about are there better ways to execute our plan. So again, the key obviously to restarting our on-campus operations is how can we reduce the risk. Our goal is to reduce the risk for on-campus operations to a level that's comparable with other day-to-day activities. And we believe we can reduce that risk if we really exercise discipline and wear PPE, if we wear the face mask and wear the face mask properly, if we practice social distancing and we avoid large gatherings, if we adhere to the CDC guidelines in hygiene, cleaning, and disinfection, if we monitor the situation both internally through our testing protocols as well in our health checks, as well as externally through various state, regional, and county data. I'll be showing you that data that we're using to monitor things externally. But also we also have to be prepared, fully prepared to isolate and quarantine as necessary any suspected or confirmed cases. We need to be prepared to conduct rapid contact tracing, and we have to be ready to clean and disinfect our exposed areas. And I believe in all of the nearly all of these areas, we are ready to resume on-campus operations. For example, we have now on campus 5 members of the staff who are trained contact tracers that work with a local Department of Health. Should we have any instances of a suspected positive case or a test positive case, we have the capability of doing that rapid contact tracing right here on campus. Our facilities department has been hard at work making sure that we have in place a good protocol for cleaning and disinfecting the spaces on campus. Again, the key here is the face mask, is proper wearing of the face mask. And so we are going to have a very strong policy that wearing a face mask or cloth face covering will be required whenever you are on campus. For students, that means you'll be required to wear a face mask or cloth face covering whenever you're outside your dorm room. For faculty or staff, they'll need to be aware of face masks or cloth face covering whenever they're outside their office. Face masks and cloth face coverings will be required in all classes and labs. We will be providing guidance on what is considered an acceptable face covering in the coming week or so. We will have an absolute zero tolerance for people on campus who are not wearing their face masks. So we're going to take a very conservative approach to this, a very strong approach to this, that whenever you're in Maritime College, you are expected to wear a face mask. And the key to this is for us to come together as a community and really hold each other accountable and hold each other responsible for wearing the face mask. This cannot be exclusively the faculty enforcement in the classrooms or the regimental staff enforcement within the regiment. It needs to be all of us as a community working together to really reinforce this behavior of properly wearing a face mask. And the graphic you see on the right is a great example. This is a story, again, that was highlighted by the CDC of 2 hairstylists in Missouri who both were positive for the COVID-19. One was actually symptomatic with the virus. They continued to go to work. I imagine they continue to go to work because they need to earn income, but they continued to go to work. They waited on almost 140 clients. Obviously, they're in very close proximity, well within 6 feet of these clients, obviously for well more than 15 minutes. But because both the hairstylists wore their face coverings and all their clients wore their face coverings, no clients were known to be infected. And if you can't read the fine print, 67 of these 139 clients were actually tested for the COVID. All the tests came back negative. All 139 completed 2 weeks of quarantine, self-isolation quarantine, and nobody developed any symptoms for the virus. And in fact, all 139 are not known to have contracted the virus from these 2 hairstylists. And it's a great example of the importance and the key of wearing the face mask. We know the face masks work. We know the face mask will help mitigate the spread of the virus, even if somebody's positive, even if someone who's positive is in close proximity with somebody else. As long as both people are wearing the mask work. And so again, we are going to be very diligent at Maritime College about the wearing of face masks and cloth face coverings whenever people are on campus. I do believe it is the key to us to be able to safely operate even in this environment with the virus still being active. So again, we've completed phase 1 of our restart plan. This was the Pure Side training where we've got about 200 cadets on campus who are doing Pure Side watchkeeping and maintenance on the ship. All students, when they first came on campus, were required to complete and submit a health screen attestation form. At that point, all the cadets claimed that they had no symptoms. they had claimed they had no symptoms within 14 days. They also claimed that they were never in proximity with someone with symptoms. In the first week, we did test everybody. All faculty, staff, and students participated in the peer side maintenance and watchkeeping and training. Of those 289 people who were tested, a total of 5, a little bit less than 2%, tested positive. All 5 individuals were asymptomatic. They were demonstrating no symptoms of the virus. Again, we immediately quarantined those 5 people. We commenced our contact tracing protocols, and we commenced cleaning of the dorm rooms in which these 5 people were in. What we did was all 5 people were sent home to quarantine at home for 2 weeks. The roommates were sent home, and one other individual was sent home who was met the CDC definition of close proximity, where they've been in close proximity with someone who tested positive for more than 15 minutes, and they were within 6 feet of that individual. After these individuals complete, so there was 11 people total. Of these 11, once they completed their 2 weeks of quarantine, they were offered the opportunity to come back on the condition that they got a negative test result, a COVID negative test result, and they also got a documentation from the governor, from the doctor, that they were clear to come back on campus. The good news is we've continued to do random health screenings, temperature checks, and surveillance testing since the first week. As you can see, in week 2, we tested 41 individuals, which was about 1/6 of the people participating. We got no positives. Last week, we tested another 45. We also got no positives. So I believe that this very encouraging result, and knock on wood that this trend continues this week and the last week of the peer side training, that should this trend continue, I believe it's a testament to that to the adherence to the safety protocols by our faculty and our staff and our students. And I do believe it validates our monitoring and containing protocols that we had 5 people test positive, but since then we've had no positive. So again, I have my fingers crossed that this trend continues, and it continues to demonstrate that, again, we can safely operate on campus as long as we adhere to these safety protocols of social distancing, wearing the mask, washing your hands. If we can stick with these protocols, I believe we can safely operate, and I certainly think this is a case study that we're capable of safely operating as long as we follow these protocols. So what are our preparations to start on-campus operations? We have procured sufficient PPE, and we have enough for the faculty, staff, and students to issue them face masks. For faculty who would like a face shield, we also have face shields for faculty and staff who would like a face shield in addition to the face mask. The mess deck, as you see in the lower right picture, our mess deck has been completely changed. Instead of 8 people to a table, there's only 4 people to a table, and I hope you can see it. There's plexiglass dividers now on the mess deck, so while they're eating, they really are, even though they're within 6 feet of each other, the plexiglass is in effect a barrier separating the students. I will say the students don't like the plexiglass because they find they can't talk to each other through the plexiglass, but it's keeping them safe, and I think that's what matters. We are working on our residence hall preparations. We are vacating one entire floor of our newer resident hall to prepare for an isolation room should we need to isolate students on campus. We are eliminating all triples. Students will only be allowed in doubles. And then we're also looking at the common spaces, and what can we do to reduce the density of students hanging out in the common spaces and the lounges, because we certainly do not want large numbers of students congregating together in the residence halls. We have a policy in place that there will be absolutely no visitors allowed in the residence halls, again, to prevent the virus of getting into the residence halls. So residence halls will be restricted to the residents only. So we are working hard on our preparations in the residence halls. Our classrooms and facilities, we're also in a lot of preparation. We've purchased large sanitation machines to sanitize large areas. We've purchased, obviously lots of cleaning supplies. We are looking at our classroom side. We're looking again at how can we reduce density so that we can space the students further apart while they're in their classrooms. We're also looking at what else do we need to equip the classrooms to make them safe. We have put in place both internal and external monitoring protocols to look both at what the trends are and also help us make decisions on whether to open the campus and when we might want to close the campus. So as far as internal monitoring, we have in place both surveillance testing and event testing. Per the governor's guidelines, you need to test um, uh, 30 people for every 1,000. Uh, for every 1,000 people, you need to test at least 30 a month. So we have about 2,000 people on campus. We need to do a surveillance testing program of about 60 people per month. And so we're putting in place, a protocol of randomly testing about 60 people a month to meet the governor's guidelines for surveillance testing. We also have in place event testing. This is where if anyone who is suspected of being positive is demonstrating symptoms or suspected of being positive, we would obviously test, and we can do that testing here. As far as external monitoring, the governor released some interesting guidelines. He didn't release this when he released the higher education guidelines. He released these guidelines when he was releasing the guidelines for K through 12 education. But I think they're good guidelines. The governor said that K through 12 schools could open if the regional rate of positive tests is less than 5% on a 14-day rolling average. He said schools must close if the rate of positive tests is greater than 9% on a 7-day rolling average. So even though he didn't issue this guidelines for higher education, I think these are good benchmarks and good metrics for us to consider in making our decisions on whether to open, and also metrics on making decisions on where to close. And I'm going to show you some data here to indicate why I think these are pretty good metrics. So this is one of our external sources of information that we're using to monitor what's going on. This is from the New York State, New York Forward website. This is for regional metrics. And so this is where you can see on the upper right, you can either select for the entire state of New York, or you can select for a region. Again, we're in the New York City region. And you see what they show here is, what's are they meeting the metrics for testing and tracing? Are they meeting the metrics regarding new infection? You see there's two metrics here. A percent positive tests per day. So you can see right here, this was as of Monday, August 3rd, that the rate of the positivity rate, 7-day average for New York City was 1.1%. The next metric is the number of cases per 100,000. You can see here New York City was at a 3.45 new cases per 100,000. The next metric is severity of infection. This is based on gross new hospitalizations. And you see amazing number here. The New York City only has 0.52 per 100,000 as far as new hospitalizations. And again, that's a 7-day rolling average. And then finally, there's the hospital capacity. On the bottom is, again, it's a history of the percent positives per day. And it's on the far left. You can see starts in March, late March, March 28th, March 30th. And on the far right is as of the end of July. We have two lines here drawn. One is the 5% positive rate, and the other line is the 9% positive rate. And you can see, going back to June, we've been below the 5% positive rate going back to June, and it's holding very steady at about a 1.1 to 1.2% positive rate for the city of New York. So well below, again, this metric that the governor's established for opening of K through 12 schools. And you see the 9%, you go back to, the 9, we are at 9% as late as, May. That's when we were still at 9% for positive rate. You can burrow down, and then you can go down to county level metrics. And so you see this is for for Bronx County. The dark blue bars are the total number of people tested. The gold bars are the total number of positives that came as a result. And then again, that gold line there is the percent positive on the 7-day rolling average. Again, what we did was we put, and this is for the Bronx specifically. It's not for New York City, but specifically for Bronx County. And then you see we put in the red line. We put the red line at 9%, and we put the green line at 5%. Again, for Bronx County, we're well below the recommended 5% positive rate. Matter of fact, you see in the lower right now, our positivity rate's 1%. What's interesting though, if you go to the far left and you look in March, between March 10th and March 20th, you see where the 9% intersects the 7-day rolling average for percent positives. What's interesting is we closed Maritime College down about the middle of March. I'm sorry, I'm thinking August too much. Look at, so we closed about the middle of March. Look where that 9% intersects the 7-day rolling average percent positive, it intersects right about the middle of March. And that's why I think this 9% might be a pretty good metric for when we might need to close the campus, because that was when we were getting very concerned with what we were seeing as far as the increase in activity of the virus here in New York City. And so it's really kind of interesting how this 9% really intersect when we in fact did close the campus in March. And so I do think it's a good metric for us to use as a benchmark of when we might have to again close the campus. The other tool we have, this is provided by SUNY Upstate. It was developed by their infectious disease doctors, their epidemiologists, and it's basically a risk dashboard. So on the left side, and they categorize risk in two pieces. One is what's the risk based on the community you reside in, and that's the left part of the dashboard. The other part of the risk is what's the risk posed to the campus by people who are commuting onto campus on a daily basis, and what risk does that pose to the campus? So we look at the left for Bronx County, you can see actually our risk has been decreasing. We're now deemed a moderate risk. We've been at a moderate risk for the past several days. You also can see Bronx County R value, which is a measure of infection rate, is 0.85, which again, anything below 1 on this is a good number because it means that the virus is not spreading. So, so where the college is located in the Bronx, certainly there is some risk, but it's at a moderate level risk. It's not as high as it once was. And again, the infection rate is less than 1, which is very good. On the right, though, this shows the risk that's being posed by faculty, staff, and students who are commuting on campus. What SUNY Upstate does, they take our data, and this is based on spring registration. So they look at our employee data and our student spring registration, and they look at which students are not residing on campus who are commuting, and the faculty and staff who are commuting, and they look at the risk level, like you see on the left there. What's the risk level of their community, and therefore what risk are they bringing on campus based on the risk level of their community? And if you look at the histogram, the bars on the far right, it shows that 8% of the people coming on campus are coming from areas that have a lower risk than the Bronx. 22% are coming from an area that has the same level as the Bronx, and you'll see in a minute in the bottom those are people commuting from the Bronx itself. And then it shows 64% are coming from communities that are higher level than the Bronx. And if you look at the bars underneath there, you can see Suffolk, New York has a higher risk, Suffolk County has a higher risk, Nassau County has a higher risk, Queens has a higher risk, Westchester has a risk, Kings has a higher risk, New York City has a higher risk. What's really interesting is everywhere but Fairfield, Connecticut has a higher risk than the Bronx. So again, the Bronx is doing, and on this day at least, the Bronx is doing pretty darn good. And really the risk being posed to the campus was not by being in the Bronx, but by the people living outside the Bronx commuting to the Bronx, particularly again from Long Island and the rest of New York City. This chart is updated daily, and we'll continue to look at this chart every day to assess what's the risk, what's the local risk from the community around us, and what's the risk from people who are commuting on campus, faculty, staff, and students. So what else has changed? Well, obviously, again, the governor has announced this New York State Travel Advisory. I call it one of our COVID curveballs that was thrown at us after our plan was developed. Currently, we estimate about 200 students are being impacted by the New York State Travel Advisory. That's approaching 15% of our student population. We've surveyed these students, and about 3/4 of them said they would certainly need help quarantining, and about 60% of them said they would like to quarantine here on campus. All our international students must also quarantine. And on the right is the New York State, what's on the current list. Well, this was the current list as of Monday, August 3rd. Today is Wednesday, August 5th. And today the governor announced changes to the list. So Delaware and DC, congratulations, you're now off the list. Rhode Island, you are now on the list. And so the list is changing. It's changing weekly. And so my encouragement to all students and families who either reside outside New York or are traveling outside New York, please monitor the New York State Travel Advisory very carefully, because this is a very dynamic list. It's changing often, and we all have to be on top of it. We all have to be aware that this list is changing. The need to quarantine the need to meet the governor's requirement to quarantine, you'll see in a minute, is going to impact our normal cadet indoctrination program in order to accommodate, again, these students who would like to quarantine on campus. So again, our repopulation plan was in 3 phases. We completed, we are still in phase 1. We'll be in phase 1 for about another 10 days. We'll be completing our peer side training on August 15th. Phase 2 will start afterwards, where we'll start to, the student quarantine period will have to start August 21st. They'll run to it'll run to September 3rd. Our faculty obligation, when faculty and staff will need to start to return to campus to start working, is on August 24th. And then our phase 3, again, is when we'll commence full-on fall term on-campus operations. Again, as I'll show in a minute, we'll be we're doing a staged move-in into the residence halls. Instead of over 1 or 2 days, it's going to be over a longer period. It'll be over Labor Day weekend, September 4th to the 6th. Our new cadet indoctrination program, again, I'll show you in a minute, will commence on September 4th, and classes will start September 8th. And so I know those are the critical dates that a lot of our students or families are asking about. So again, the student quarantine period for students who are out of state on the New York State Travel Advisory, international students, your quarantine period starts August 21st. For students moving into the dorms, we'll be moving into the dorms over a period of Labor Day weekend, September 4th to the 6th. For new students that are going to participate in our new cadet indoctrination program, that will start September 4th, and classes will start September 8th. And again, as we start on-campus operations, we must have fully in place our protocols for social distancing, testing, screening, and all our response protocols must be fully in place. And we must have this community mindset that we're going to fully abide by these best practices and protocols of social distancing and wearing of the mask and personal hygiene. We must have a strong community commitment that we're all going to hold each other accountable and responsible to these very important protocols in order for us to safely operate. The virus just needs a crack to get on campus. Just one person who doesn't follow these protocols, who brings the virus on campus, that's the crack the virus is looking for. So I will continue to emphasize, wear a mask, practice social distancing, practice good personal hygiene. We do these things, we can safely operate. If we don't do these things, it's likely the virus will find its way on campus. So again, for those students who are on who are on this list for quarantine, here are some options we'd like to provide to you. Again, a reminder, all students travel from states on the New York State Travel Advisory must quarantine in New York for 14 days. That's the governor's guidelines. Not my guidelines, the governor's guidelines. We'll require all students who are traveling from states on the travel advisory, they must complete our Maritime College health screening attestation form, and they must complete the New York State online travel health form. You must complete that upon arrival in New York. It's an online form. You can certainly complete it before you arrive. All it basically asks for is, where are you planning to stay while you're in New York? So you can certainly do that prior to arrival, but it's a form you must complete upon arrival. Again, we're going to give our students 2 options. We're going to allow them the option to quarantine here on campus. The quarantine period will be August 21st to September 3rd. A reminder, we have sent an email out to students on this. A reminder to our students, you must request a quarantine space by Friday, August 7th. We are asking for a deposit just to confirm your space. Should you complete the quarantine, the deposit will be refunded to your student account. It's just a way for us to confirm how many people are coming for our planning purposes. We got to plan for things like the dorms and the food service. So it allows us to make the plan that we need to do by having people make a deposit. But again, the cost will be no cost to you. You'll get that deposit refunded once you complete the quarantine. Students will be obviously screened upon arrival, and we will do random COVID-19 testing during the quarantine period. We will not test all students, but we will do random testing. The students could also elect to do an off-campus quarantine somewhere off-campus. But a reminder, you must abide by the travel advisory in its entirety regarding the quarantine. So read the travel advisory carefully. You must abide by it. the New York State Department of Health will verify your compliance. I have a friend who came to New York who filled out that form. I will tell you the New York State Department of Health called him every day. Where is he and what's he doing during the quarantine? So they're going to check. So make sure you can verify compliance with the New York State Department of Health. These students will also be screened upon arrival, and they'll also be required to complete, again, our health screening and attestation form upon arrival. Again, we strongly recommend for our international students and other students who are traveling by air to get to Maritime, you might want to purchase a refundable insured ticket because, again, things can change. I mean, the governor at the last minute may just say, I'm not going to I'm going to require all colleges in New York State to remain closed. So I would recommend a refundable ticket just in case something should change. Again, for all students coming back on campus, again, for all students coming back on campus, please avoid travel to or from the states of the New York State Travel Advisory 14 days prior to return to campus. Again, the guidelines are clear. If you spend more than 24 hours in one of these states, you must quarantine for 14 days upon arrival back in New York. So for students preparing to return to campus, please, I recommend you avoid traveling to states in New York if you can. There's so many of them. But please try to avoid travel on New York State Travel Advisory for 14 days prior to returning to campus. All students coming back on campus, all students returning to campus, we are asking you to complete 2 weeks of precautionary self-quarantine and monitoring prior to returning to campus. Again, for you, again, that would mean starting on August 21st, starting this precautionary self-quarantine. Stay at home to the greatest extent possible. If you have to go out, wear PPE while you're in public, and please, 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 avoid large gatherings. This is not the time to be enjoying your summer by going to large parties where people are not practicing social distancing and not wearing masks. You're putting yourself at risk. As I say here, though, not only are you putting yourself at risk, you're putting everyone else here on campus at risk by participating in these hazardous activities 14 days before you come back on campus. So please, we all want to make sure we can safely reopen. We all want to make sure we can safely complete the entire fall semester. The only way we can do this is if you do your part to abide by this self-quarantine. Stay at home as much as possible, wear PPE, and avoid large gatherings. We do not want to see you get infected with the virus within 14 days of coming back on campus and you bring the virus back with you on campus. A positive test result will result in you being isolated at home or on campus, your roommate, and everyone else that you're in close proximity with. So you must, please avoid these large gatherings. This is not the time to be partying. You can do that later after this virus passes. Please don't do it within 14 days of coming back on campus. You will be required to complete a Maritime College health screening attestation form. On that form, you're going to have to sign by your signature attesting to the fact that you properly completed the self-quarantine with these conditions of staying at home, wearing PPE in public, and avoiding large gatherings. You'll be asked by your signature to attest to the fact that you abided by this. And then finally, please continue to monitor the email, the social media, and the college website for updates and announcements. It's a very dynamic situation. Things are going to continue to change. For those students, the new students coming to campus and entering our regiment, for the new students entering our regiment, we've had to modify our NDOC program in order to accommodate the students that we're going to have to quarantine on campus. We just didn't see how we could do both. We didn't see how we could both quarantine students on campus as well as deliver the NDOC program. In addition, for students traveling from out of state, they would have to quarantine for 2 weeks before the start of NDOC, which would have been even earlier. So we believe that it's best not to do NDOC in conjunction with the quarantine. We are still going to, I promise you, we're still going to deliver you the same 10-day NDOC experience, but it's going to be delivered in a different way. So what we're going to do is this. All students participating in the NDOC program will report on campus on Friday, September 4th. You'll complete an initial NDOC period over Labor Day weekend from Friday, September 4th to Monday, September 7th. And then what will happen is there'll be 2 additional weekends, one in September, the 25th to 27th of September, and one the 16th to 18th of October. Those 2 additional weekends will allow us to complete, again, the complete 10-day in-dock experience that all our students have gotten before, including time on the ship familiarization, STCW training. All of that will be accomplished between the initial in-dock period and the 2 additional weekends. You must participate in both the initial in-dock and both weekends. These are not optional. You must complete all 3 in order to successfully complete in-dock and enter in the regiment. We're encouraging you to minimize what you bring, and we'll talk about that in a second for all students, but absolutely minimize what you should bring on campus. Please plan on having your TWIC card with you. Hopefully by now you've applied for your TWIC card. If you have not, you really need to get in and apply for your TWIC card. We want to encourage you to continue to follow the 8-week workout program. There will be PT involved in doc and throughout your MUG year, so please be sure to come on campus in shape and ready to participate in the PT program. And again, you must complete your 719K physical, and if you're having problems with that, please contact our health services department. Again, what we're going to do is there'll be a detailed email coming out this week that's going to cover everything from your check-in time, what to bring, what not to bring, information on the physicals, and other important information regarding in-doc will be coming out this week. For all our other students returning on campus, again, we're going to do a staggered move-in over Labor Day weekend. So again, the 4th class cadets and the civilian students are going to move in on Friday, September 4th. The 2nd class cadets and the 1st class cadets will move in on Saturday, September 5th, and the 3rd class cadets and the grad students and day students will move in on Sunday, September 6th. You must stick to your move-in day. The reason we're doing this, again, is to minimize the amount of people on campus. We need to keep the density down. We need to practice good social distancing. So you must abide by your move-in day. You cannot deviate from this. We will not allow you to move in on any day other than your designated move-in day. We're going to, again, to keep density down, we're going to only allow one person to help a student move into their dorms. That's going to be it. Families cannot help students move in. Just one person only in addition to the student. This is for issues like the elevators. How do we minimize how many people are in the elevators? Again, everyone on campus must wear a mask, period. If you're not wearing a mask, you're not going to be able to move into your dorm. So make sure you plan on wearing a mask. We are going to have a contactless check-in, again, just from a safety perspective. To expedite move-in, I really recommend you bring as few personal belongings as possible for the fall semester. Again, we don't know if we're going to get through the entire fall semester or not. We don't know at some point we're going to have to close down the campus. So I would recommend, be light on your move-in because, again, it will make it easier if you have to move out. So just bear that in mind. Just bear in mind that ask yourself, if I have to move out of my dorm, what should I bring in to make it easier for me to have to move out again? Again, check your student account, make sure your bill's been satisfied. All that will help with the move-in. Dining services will be available over Labor Day weekend but it's not part of the meal plan. The meal plan doesn't start until Monday, September 7th with lunch. So if you're on campus, you like to use the dining services, it will be a pay-as-you-go. The cadets involved in in-doc, your dining services fee is covered as part of your in-doc fee. Again, there will be a detailed email coming out this week that's going to cover everything about residential move-in and the processes and procedures. So look for that email, please. So then on the modality of course instruction. First of all, all courses that will be delivered, regardless of the modality of course instruction, all courses will be delivered will use Blackboard for the administration of the course. That means the faculty will be using Blackboard for distributing course material, the syllabus, the course materials, course resources, as well as communicating with the students via email. So we are going to require the faculty to use our Blackboard learning management system for all course administration. We are also asking all faculty, regardless of modality they use, is to maximize meaningful faculty-student interaction. We know this is so important for the students that they have that faculty interaction, that meaningful faculty interaction. So again, regardless of modality, the goal here is to provide a meaningful student experience and meaningful faculty-student interaction. We have allowed the faculty, though, to choose the modality of the course instruction. The faculty can choose face-to-face. Obviously, for our STCW license classes and certain lab courses, face-to-face will be required. I mean, you can't teach welding or lathe unless you do it face-to-face. The faculty who are teaching face-to-face will be required to prepare an academic continuity plan. We need to shift to remote instruction. They need to have a plan in place in which they can more or less seamlessly shift from face-to-face to remote instruction. Again, faculty can also choose to deliver the course in the fall by remote instruction. We are asking faculty who are choosing this modality, they're going to self-certify that the plan meets best practices for remote instruction. So the faculty have to do a self-assessment and self-certify to make sure their course is really ready to be delivered effectively via remote instruction. Again, with one of the goals being meaningful faculty-student interaction even through remote instruction. And the last option, faculty can choose to offer a fully online course. We do have about 100 courses that have been certified by SUNY as meaning the SUNY standards for an online course. And so those are the three modalities the faculty can choose. What we've asked the faculty to do is by August 15th is to submit to their department chair and the head of their school, what modality are they going to use for their course. Again, for faculty who are choosing face-to-face, they're going to have to include in that documentation of the department chair and the head of their school their academic continuity plan. For faculty who are choosing remote instruction, they're going to have to submit to the department chair and head of school on August 15th they're going to have to self-certify that their plan meets best practices. We've asked the faculty by August 24th, again, which is the start of faculty obligation, to inform their students via Blackboard how the course is being delivered. So students, you will know 2 weeks prior to starting classes what the modality is of your courses that you've registered for. I would like to say that, again, for students who are possibly concerned about returning to campus and are concerned about face-to-face instruction, work with your academic advisor and work to arrange a schedule of remote instruction and online courses for the fall semester. I think you'll have enough options there to have a schedule of courses that continues to progress towards graduation while through remote instruction and or through online courses. So again, students who are concerned about return on campus, students who are concerned about face-to-face instruction this fall, please work with your advisor. I think we can find a schedule of courses through remote instruction and online courses. Again, reminder, classes will begin on Tuesday, September 8th. Student aid. Again, we are mindful that this COVID-19 pandemic is impacting our students and their families. It's causing financial hardship for many of our students and our families. I want to highlight 2 opportunities for financial aid for student aid. First of all, we do have assistance available through the CARES Act funding for eligible students. So this is federal money provided to the Maritime College specifically to help students and families that are being impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. So please contact financial aid. Find out if you're eligible. If you're eligible, please apply for this federal CARES Act funding. It's there for you. We'd like to see you use it and take advantage of it. In addition, as you may be aware, Maritime College this summer started a One-Hand Student Relief Fund campaign to raise money to help against students and families with unanticipated financial needs, particularly, again, needs their families and they're being impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Our goal is to raise $750,000, which would basically match how much we received in the CARES Act money to make about $1.5 million available in student financial aid during this crisis. To date, we've raised about 1/3 of that goal. We've raised about $260,000. As you can see here, we've had lots of gifts from lots of different sources. We've had alumni give gifts from just $20 to $25,000. We've had staff and faculty here at the college give to this campaign. I've given to this campaign. We've had current families who've also stepped up to help other families in need, and we've seen gifts from other families up to $5,000 to help other families in need. We have already allocated about $100,000 of this to help the students that are participating in our pierside training, our pierside watchkeeping and maintenance training. Our concern there was because the pierside watchkeeping and maintenance training does not include any academic courses, the students could not use financial aid for this training, so it was all out of pocket. And so thanks to the generosity of the Maritime College Alumni Association, every student who participated in the Pierside training has already received a $500 credit towards that training. Again, it helps because this is, again, all out of pocket for our students and their families. And again, in addition, we've set aside $100,000 to provide additional assistance for those students participating in this program. So students and families, if you need assistance, please reach out to financial aid. Financial aid is the clearinghouse for both of these funds, as well as other financial aid that may be available to you. Again, we recognize the COVID-19 pandemic is having an impact on many of our students and their families. We want to be there to help. So please reach out to financial aid and let's see if we can provide some assistance to you. So summary, within the next week or so, students will receive details and guidance on residential move-in and check-in. They'll receive detailed guidance regarding the new cadet indoctrination program for our new students entering the regiment. Bill, I keep on hearing this is a big question. When am I going to get my bill for the fall semester? We've had to hold off on issuing the bills for a couple reasons. With our later start date of September 8th, we usually don't issue bills until a month before the start of the semester. In addition, we've been waiting on some guidance from SUNY on tuition. We will be issuing the bills for the fall semester. They will be posted by next week, by the middle of August, so we'll be looking for those. Again, students will be looking for guidance from faculty on the modality of your course. That should be promulgated by August 24th. And again, please, please, please continue to abide by all CDC protocols. Wear the mask, wear a face covering, practice social distancing, avoid these large events with large crowds where people are not practicing social distancing or not wearing masks. Please wash your hands. If we do this, we know we'll minimize the risk of the virus coming on campus at the start of the fall semester. If we do this, we know we can safely operate while at the same time mitigating the risk to all of us of contracting the virus while we're conducting our on-campus operations this fall. I cannot emphasize this enough. We need to do this. If we don't do this, the virus will find a crack. It'll find its way on campus, and we'll all be impacted. So you're not doing this for you. You're doing this for all of us. In order for all of us to be safe, we must all practice these protocols. And again, as a community, we must hold each other accountable and responsible to abide by these protocols. So some final thoughts. This is a great quote from Governor Cuomo a few weeks ago when he was seeing these instances of large beach parties, large pool parties, large parties outside bars. And he said, I cannot be more clear. Look at what's happening in the rest of the country. If we're not smart, if we don't wear a mask and social distance, cases will spike. No one wants to go back to the hell we experienced 3 months ago. So please stay vigilant. And I just want to reiterate that myself. We need to stay vigilant. We need to continue to practice these best practices. We need to stay vigilant. I know it's not fun wearing a mask. I wear a mask all the time here on campus. It's not a lot of fun, but it's going to allow us to safely reopen and stay open and hopefully get through the whole fall semester safely. My other final thought, this was a quote that reflecting on the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on the entertainment industry, the band Switchfoot had quoted Ernest Hemingway. And the quote from Ernest Hemingway is, "No is no time to think of what you do not have. Think of what you can do with that there is." It's a great quote. And really the quote is, again, for all our students, we can't look back and look back at what we weren't able to do this summer or look back at the fall semester. We can't look back at all of that, all the things that we could not do. We need to look forward to what we can do with that there is. And we need to look forward to resuming on-campus instruction. We need to look forward to summer seed term next summer. We need to look forward. And in order to look forward, again, we need to practice safe distance, social distancing, wearing a mask, personal hygiene. Let's look forward, everybody. Let's look forward to what we can do with that there is during this crisis. And I think if we do look forward and we practice these safe protocols, we can safely resume on-campus operations, and we can look forward to a great year of people being back on campus. I like to say this, no college campus is meant to be like this. No college campus is meant to be empty. A college campus is meant to be full of people engaged in intellectual activity and engaged in learning. And I think we can do that if we look to what not backwards, but look forwards, and also we continue to practice these very important protocols and practice these safety protocols and be safe. So finally, if you have questions, here's some resources for you to reach out to if you have any questions on admissions, student accounts, billing or payments, financial aid, scholarships. Again, remember, there is financial aid available. Please reach out to financial aid if you need assistance. Medical, again, questions on the new cadet indoctrination program, questions for our registrar, or any sort of questions on housing. I hope this presentation was helpful, and I really hope that in a few weeks we can see all you return back here on campus. Again, thank you very much for spending some time with me. Again, I hope this was helpful. Again, we will continue to communicate with you as best we can to keep you as well informed as best we can. And my commitment is we'll do everything we can to make sure we can open, but we can open safely with everyone's health and safety at the top of the list. Thank you very much for this time.